About 40% of us will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in our lives. And honestly, that's a pretty scary statistic. Now, obviously, some of it comes down to genetics, aging, and just plain bad luck. But here's the encouraging part. Researchers believe a large percentage of cancers may actually be preventable. So even though you can't change the genes you were born with, you can influence the environment those genes live in every single day. And one of the biggest influences on your body is food. Because cancer isn't just about genetics. It's also connected to things like metabolism, inflammation, hormones, blood sugar, and immune health. And what's really interesting is that certain foods can quietly create the exact environment cancer cells need to survive and grow, while other foods help your body defend itself. So in this video, I want to break down how cancer cells actually grow, which foods may increase cancer risk, and some simple nutrition changes that may help protect your body long term. Now, here's something a lot of people don't realize. Your body is constantly dealing with damaged cells. That's completely normal. Every single day, cells get damaged and repaired. Most of the time, your immune system catches those damaged cells early and removes them before they become a serious problem. But sometimes, one abnormal cell slips through unnoticed. And for that single cell to eventually grow into cancer, several things usually need to happen. First, it needs fuel. One thing researchers discovered is that cancer cells burn through glucose incredibly fast. Glucose is basically sugar, the fuel your body gets from carbohydrates. And compared to healthy cells, cancer cells are extremely hungry for it. A simple way to picture this is to imagine healthy cells as efficient engines. They use fuel carefully and steadily. Cancer cells are different. They behave more like engines stuck at full speed, constantly burning through fuel to support non-stop growth. And honestly, this is where modern diets become a problem. Foods like soda, candy, pastries, white bread, sugary cereals, and highly processed snacks can send blood sugar levels skyrocketing. And when blood sugar rises quickly, insulin levels rise too. Now, most people think insulin only affects blood sugar, but insulin is also a powerful growth signal inside the body. So, over time, repeated blood sugar spikes may create two problems at once. You're giving cancer cells easy access to fuel while also increasing the hormonal signals that encourage growth. And it doesn't stop there. Constant blood sugar spikes can also increase inflammation and oxidative stress, both of which may damage healthy cells over time. And chronic inflammation is a major problem because it weakens one of your body's biggest defenses against cancer, your immune system. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean all carbohydrates are bad. That part gets misunderstood all the time. The bigger issue is heavily processed, low-fiber carbohydrates that digest extremely fast. Whole foods are completely different. Things like beans, lentils, vegetables, berries, oats, and whole grains release energy much more slowly and help keep blood sugar levels more stable. They also provide fiber, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that support for time. Now, another important thing to understand is exposure to toxins that can naturally contaminate food. A major example is something called aflatoxins. These are toxic compounds produced by molds that can grow on foods like peanuts, corn, grains, and tree nuts. Now, this does not mean nuts are unhealthy. In fact, nuts can be incredibly nutritious. The real issue is poor storage and mold contamination. Warm and humid conditions make these toxins more likely to form, especially when foods are stored for long periods of time. So, realistically, this is less about fear and more about awareness. Simple things can help, like avoiding nuts that look discolored or shriveled, paying attention to expiration dates, and storing foods properly after buying them. Roasting may reduce some toxin levels, but it doesn't completely eliminate them. There can also be indirect exposure through dairy if animals consume contaminated feed. Again, the goal here isn't panic, it's awareness. Now let's talk about processed meat and red meat, because this topic becomes controversial very quickly. A lot of studies have linked processed meats, things like bacon, sausages, hot dogs, and deli meats, with a higher risk of colorectal cancer. There are also associations with high amounts of red meat, but to be fair, many of these studies are observational, so researchers can identify patterns, but proving direct cause and effect is much more difficult, because people who eat large amounts of processed foods may also exercise less, smoke more, sleep worse, or eat fewer fruits and vegetables, so lifestyle as a whole matters. That said, there are still biological reasons researchers are concerned. Processed meats often contain preservatives called nitrites, and inside the body, those compounds can form substances called nitrosamines, which may damage DNA. Cooking methods matter too. When meat becomes heavily charred at very high temperatures, especially during grilling or frying, it can create compounds linked to cellular damage. But again, the takeaway here isn't necessarily never eat red meat again. It's more about moderation and overall dietary patterns. And honestly, one of the most consistent findings in cancer research is the protective effect of fiber-rich foods. People who eat more fiber tend to have lower risks of several major cancers, and that actually makes sense when you look at what fiber does inside the body. Fiber supports gut health, it helps regulate blood sugar, it reduces inflammation, and it helps the body remove waste more effectively. So instead of obsessing over eliminating one specific food completely, it's probably more useful to focus on building meals around vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, and whole grains. Now, we also need to talk about alcohol, because unlike some nutrition topics where the evidence is debated, this one is actually much clearer. Alcohol has been strongly linked to several types of cancer, and one reason is that when alcohol breaks down in the body, it forms a toxic compound called acetaldehyde, which can directly damage DNA. Alcohol can also increase inflammation, interfere with cellular repair, and make it easier for other carcinogens to damage tissues. And over time, heavy alcohol intake can also contribute to nutrient deficiencies that affect overall cellular health and energy production. The risk generally increases with higher intake over longer periods. So from a cancer prevention standpoint, reducing alcohol intake is one of the most evidence-backed lifestyle changes someone can make. And honestly, at the end of the day, no single food guarantees cancer, and no single meal causes it either. Cancer is incredibly complex, but your daily habits absolutely shape the environment inside your body. Every meal is either helping to reduce inflammation, support immune function, stabilize blood sugar, and protect healthy cells, or slowly pushing things in the opposite direction. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency, because small decisions repeated over years can completely change long-term health outcomes. And the good news is, your body is constantly trying to repair and protect itself. You just want to give it the tools to do that more effectively. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe for more evidence-based videos on health, metabolism, longevity, and disease prevention. And I'll see you in the next one.